Hey, I'm notorious for translating all fantasy and esoteric knowledge into a psychological construction, into the psyche, into the idea of collective subconsciousness that we got gifted, presented by Nietzsche and Carl Gustav Jung. Nietzsche laid the groundwork for all psychoanalysis, for the work of Sigmund Freud and Carl Gustav Jung and many other people after him. So let me talk about the concept, the idea of the so-called spirit team today. But before we start, I want to clarify something. I believe love is not a concept. I believe love is a unity, a source, something underlying everything, beyond concepts and words. The same applies to life drive and death drive that has been described or discovered by Sabina Spielrein in the 1920s. Which is equal also to what I speak of when I say sexual energy, is life drive. And life drive is not a dualistic force like love. It's a unique, something like sunlight. Sunlight can be split into different colors using a prism. And the same way, life drive can become death drive whenever we take a risk, whenever we have destructive behavior. But we can't really separate or judge whether it's really destructive or just the destruction that is necessary to give birth to something new. Something that is free of the old disease, the old mistakes, the old wrong assumptions. So I just want to say there is concepts, there is dualistic ideas, there's splitting, black and white thinking, splitting into moral, good and bad, good and evil. But there is something bigger and beyond that. And these are these underlying forces like love or life drive. And yeah, that's all I want to say. So, just to make it clear once again. However, when we talk about spirit team, it's of course a spiritual idea. And spirituality is the concept, the fantasy of a world behind the world. And as such, I would say it's basically, it's a fantasy. And as we know, fantasy can be healthy and malignant. It can be healthy and it can be dangerous. Alright, a healthy person can use fantasy to plan, to have visions and move towards them and play through different scenarios or follow a dream for years. But what becomes reality will always surprise you and be a little bit different than your dream. But at times, or always, it No, it can be even better. But there's also part of it is you always get what you need. You know, you don't get what you want. You not always get what you want, but you always get what you need. Okay. So we need fantasy. To be only rational would be mechanic, would be unalive. All right. So it's okay to have fantasies, and as such, we can understand spirituality as a fantasy, and as a fantasy, it can be healthy and helpful. And as a fantasy, it is also, in my opinion, the expression and the product of subconsciousness or collective subconsciousness. So when we speak about a spirit team, it also reminds me of magical thinking of children. Children have fantasy as a defensive mechanism against the world. This is why children have magical thinking and fantasy. And this is, of course, healthy and necessary for them. Children also have grandiosity. They have grandiosity to explore the world. Without mama, without daddy. It's part of to separate. Grandiosity is necessary to separate. To say, mama and daddy, I go out there, explore the world and trust all the right and wrong people. Because I have this wrong assumption that I'm so grandiose that I can do this. Okay? This is also why I say we need a healthy form of fantasy, narcissism, and grandiosity. Because we still want to explore the world. We still want to trust other people. We still want to do mistakes in life. Because the only way to make no mistake is staying home forever. And this is a mistake as well. Right? If you risk nothing, you have already lost everything. So anyway, it's cheesy, right? So when we talk about spirit team, it's magical thinking. It's a fantasy. It can be healthy. But you can also drift away in this fantasy if you're not able to discern what is reality, what is fantasy, who am I? Where do I begin? Where do I end? Where does another person begin and end? Where do I end and the world begins? And so on. Yeah. I like the air after the rain. It's clear. Okay. So I think when we talk about spirit team, we feel like we identify with people or archetypes that we resonate with. It could be an artist that you have followed for, or that you were, accompanying you since years. It could be any person, real or imagined. You say, this is my spirit team. Whether it's archangels or athletes, real athletes, imagined figures, whatever you want. If it's in your spirit team, it's in a spirit team. It's an animal, a spirit of an animal, whatever. The reason, I think, why we do this is the same reason why we believe in God or entities or Jesus. I think, and this is not a judgment, because I told you it can be healthy and helpful, and I also would claim that this reality around us is not more or less real than any imagination, because whenever I talk of a tree that is right next to me and think of a tree, or show you the tree and we speak about the tree, we speak about the concept of the tree. We talked about this in other videos. This world is summoned in consciousness only. So we don't know whether this tree exists in the same way, divorced from all human consciousness. And what I want to say is, I don't want to put any world over the other, whether it's the imaginary world or this what we call real world, okay? In other words, I'm not judging here. So I believe we do this for the same reason as we believe in God or Jesus or whatever we believe in. We feel our belief and the desire for these intense and mystical moments, especially when we are in pain or in need, when we feel betrayed and alone. Of course, there can also be mystic experiences whenever it can just spontaneously happen, or when we go through periods of fasting, or when we stand, like some gurus or spiritual seekers would stay up all night in a pose and wait for the sun to rise in the cold, and when the sun rises they break in tears and have a very religious experience. All right, so it can happen through different ways. But one of the reasons why we do this is when we feel alone and betrayed, and then we find peace. We find peace in this imagination, in this fantasy. And again, I'm not saying that this fantasy is more or less real than any world or concept that we can think or speak of, right? It's all equal. Yeah. And yeah, I think it also it gives us kind of a direction, because it's part of our self-concept, whatever we identify with, whatever follows us. When we think of an artist, it's a certain vibration. Literally, if it's a singer, he has a certain frequency in his voice. The music is in a certain style. The message, the lyrics are in a certain style and transport a certain message. If it's an animal that we think of, or whatever it is, it always has an archetypal content or a quality. It can also be rather masculine or feminine, and so on. It can be both. Whatever it is, it has a quality. Otherwise, it would not be in a spirit team, right? Yeah, just a small video, my take on this, including my take on fantasy, imagination, concepts, and things that go beyond concepts, such like life drive, love, like fundamentals that can't be split. Yeah. That's it. Of course, I forgot the most important part. Another reason or psychological background about this spirit team is that we don't dare at times we don't have the grandiosity necessary, the self-esteem to believe that we have the power to do it alone. Yet when we understand that the spirit team is our creation, our imagination, our concept, our choice, what we filter out of this mysterious input of information that comes down in our brain. You know, it's a trick. It's a trick to externalize the concepts, our self-concepts, and what we resonate with and what we need as something external. By the way, God and Jesus is probably the same. And we don't dare to believe that we are that we have that power. All right, and this is why we externalize it. But you need to understand, it's your creation. It's you. You have the power. You have all the power that your spirit team has. It's in you. It's channeled through you. It's basically summoned in your consciousness, like everything is summoned in your consciousness, okay? Everything is summoned in your consciousness. Okay? Or have you ever experienced anything that is not in your consciousness?